So welcome back everyone, Mike here. It is another beautiful day here in Western Pennsylvania. Today I think we're going to have a very interesting video for you and I hope you enjoy it. What we're going to do here is neighbor Cliff and I, we have a forester coming out this morning and we're going to go for a hike all around Cliff's property, over on our place, over at my mom's place, and what the goal here is, we want to kind of better manage our forests, not just for timber, but also for wildlife habitat. What I have found living in this area my entire life is things change, and it doesn't take long at all really, but different areas of the property that used to have a bunch of small trees and brushy areas, they're now growing up into bigger woods, and that's great for the timber but not so great for the deer. So what we're trying to do is find a balance, you know. So what we want to do is walk around with this guy, get as much information as we can, and then try to put a plan together to better manage the overall forest. And like I said, not just for trees, but for wildlife as well. So he should be here in just a little bit. I'm going to meet him over at neighbor Cliff's, and then we'll bring you along and hopefully we'll all learn something today. All right, so this is Scott Morgan, no relation to me, but I tell you, we've had a really good morning so far. We've been hiking around the woods here and learning a lot. You know, I'm always out in the woods and people watch our channel see me doing stuff, but Scott, you've been doing this since you got out of college. Yeah. And a lot of the things I picked up on today, I was trying to learn the difference between the red oaks. So can you explain, you have a whole red oak family, which is where you're...
Yeah, red oaks, your black oaks, your scarlet oaks, shingle oak, a few other species around, but...
And the scarlet oaks are the ones that we saw had the dead limbs that are kind of curved.
Yeah, that's real typical. They'll hold their branches, dead branches, a lot longer than typical, and they tend to come out and curve. So if you see that on an oak tree, that's a good indicator that it's a scarlet oak.
But that's all part of the red oak family.
Yes.
And now...
And the lumber sells for red oak, you know, although it's a lower grade.
Right.
Like I said, they're all going to saw, and if it meets a certain spec, it's going to get sold as red oak lumber. Just like chestnut oak and white oak all get lumped in together. You have a little bit of swamp white oak, occasionally here and there, but
in a little bit, I want to show you a big one we just took down the other day, and I want to see what you think of that tree. It was an old one. It's a pretty good sized tree. The other thing I learned, I never really realized this. North and east slopes produce better hardwoods than southwest slopes.
Yeah, you get a lot deeper soils typically on your north facing slopes, east facing slopes. You don't get the direct sunlight. The soils hold moisture better. Your shallower soils are on your either ridge tops or your western south facing slopes. Mm-hmm. Shallower soils, typically drier. You're going to have different, it's going to be more oak sites, but not as good a quality.
Right.
Your best sites are by far in Pennsylvania, north facing slopes.
So Pennsylvania, I don't know if you know the answer to this. Is it still the largest hardwood producer in the country?
I don't know. North Carolina's right up there. I think North Carolina actually was
for hardwoods.
For hardwoods, yeah.
Okay.
West Virginia's a big state.
Yeah. Yeah, we were. I was telling Scott earlier, we've both been up to the Pennsylvania Lumber Museum. That's something I would recommend if you're into the...
Yeah, that's a pretty nice place.
It's pretty neat. It's learn about the history and about all the white pine and the hemlock they used to cut back in the day, but how that then provided what was needed for all the hardwoods that we had, the clear cuts.
Yeah, once they come in and cleared them, and that with the iron furnaces where they clear cut everything, and you had the railroads that were setting fires from sparks on the railroads back then, and it really favored the oak regeneration. Yeah. And a lack of deer.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that too. There were hardly any deer back then. Yeah. It's funny how everything changes though. Like when I was a kid, I'm 54. I'll never forget, we took my grandmother to church, and when we dropped her off, we saw a turkey. And that was like, I'd never seen one before. You know what I mean? Now we see them almost daily, but things just seem to change. But everything we've looked at so far has pretty much been fields 40, 50 years ago.
Typical Butler County.
Yeah. Cherry, maple, a few decent cherries, a few decent maples, but we really haven't come across much yet. But I'll show you some trees here in a minute I think are pretty nice. Once we get down in these valleys here a little bit. There's pretty good trees.
Yep.
But it's been fun so far. I love talking.
It's a beautiful day.
A beautiful day to be out here, and you're learning stuff and just getting to know the land a little bit better. I've lived here my whole life, and you don't know it all. That's for darn sure. You know what I mean? Well, good deal.
Okay. All right.
So we'll test my limited knowledge here. Now, you just told me that one down there. You think that one's a scarlet?
Yeah, just from the bark.
Well, the snag at the top, like.
Yeah.
And this is white oak right behind.
Yeah, white oak here.
Black oak to the right. Follow it.
Black oak there. Where's there a hickory at? This one right here. Or is that an elm? I don't know what that.
Hickory.
It is hickory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, is that what they would call shag?
No.
Shag.
We got 4 kinds of hickories in Pennsylvania, basically in this area. You got shagbark, which everybody knows.
Right.
You know, it's got that big.
That's what I got
Shaggy
down in my
bark.
front yard, that big one.
Yeah.
You got mocker nut, pig nut, and bitter nut.
Okay.
Now, foresters will just lump them all in one category because when they go to the mill and get sawed up, it's all hickory. You know, so.
And what kind's this one again?
This is probably a well, let's see. See, it's been so long since I've had to differentiate. Either a mocker nut or a pig nut. Probably a mocker nut.
But they all just go to the mill as hickory.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. And then this big one over here with the black oak. So see, I thought this one over here, I thought that was an elm, but this one may be a hickory as well, huh?
Yeah, that's hickory.
That's a hickory. Yeah, I fell into that because like you're saying, everyone knows the shagbark. That's the ones I have in the yard and a few other places, but yes, that's a hickory.
So this is a sassafras, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sassafras.
Now, if you notice, we're on more of a north face of slope. Still got snow on the ground.
Right.
Because you're not getting that sun beating down on it. That's why this is a moister soil. That's why you're getting the nicer red oaks and stuff over here.
That's good to, yes, that's making sense. Yeah. Yeah, most of the snow everywhere else is melted off except for all down in here. Well, that's a big tree there, but it's really not a very good tree. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Huh.
Almost looks like it had wire in it. Something.
Yeah. Do you know what causes burls on trees? There's some of them you'll just see those big burls. I've never been able to figure that out.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
And that one leaning.
Red oak right there. You got some decent timber in here. That white oak there.
That hard leaner right there. That's a white oak right there.
Yeah.
The one the tree stands on, is that a white?
Yeah, down there to the right.
Just stand on
Yeah.
the white, that's a white oak there.
Yep.
And this here one, is this one of the scarlets or
That's a red.
that's a red?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's pretty nice there.
Yeah.
And that real big one over there. See
Yeah, if you look at the difference between that, the bark on that one, that's that nice tight red oak bark. That nice tight bark a lot of times indicates it's a good growing, nice fast growing tree. Red oaks are pretty fast growing. Probably poplars are the only thing that's faster growing in Pennsylvania in this area than red oaks. Then you compare the bark from that one to that big one.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of a subtle difference, but
you can definitely
it
tell.
might just be old enough that those dead limbs that tend to hang on have eventually fallen off.
Right.
That's
And that
a scarlet.
The dark one you see down here that's going up and breaking to the left, pretty good size. It looks like a cherry, but I don't know is that what it is, like a 2-foot type tree?
oh, I think it's another one of them.
See it right there?
Yeah.
What is that? That's a pretty good size tree.
Yeah.
Black oak.
Yeah, and then a red right down below it, right?
Use the cherry over there to nail stand up in.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually talked about that before when I was really young and dumb. Plus, that tree almost killed me. I climbed up in there and had to cut part of it off with a chainsaw up about 20 feet while you're up there, you know. Not very smart. Yeah, that one there doesn't look like the other reds, though.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like I said, they'll hybridize sometimes. I would tend to think that was a scarlet oak.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little better than typical scarlet oaks. That's the thing. Sometimes they're hard to tell. Sometimes you gotta look at the acorn caps on them, you know.
Right. Yeah, and we're out here
really
this time of year, not a leaf out here either.
I mean, foresters will sit there and argue sometimes about the, you know, trees.
Yeah. Well, you were saying, I don't know if you talked to the people or not, but you were saying about the acorns. You say the whites typically have an acorn yearly.
Well, the white oak acorns will mature in 1 year.
Okay.
The red oaks will mature in 2 years.
Okay. But will the white oak typically have an acorn every year?
No.
Okay, how often? Depends on weather and everything else?
It just depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could have 2 or 3 years with no mass crop.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden.
I've been on hillside you can't hardly stand on because they had so many acorns on them. I think stressful years sometimes, you know, the tree realizes it's a stressful year, they're going to produce a huge crop to continue their...
Well, you know, we had a really dry summer this year.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, last summer it was really dry. And I know over by the house, you couldn't even walk out there. I mean, it was like walking on marbles. We had so many, which surprised me as dry as it was. But maybe that's what it is, the stress, you know, I don't know. Huh. And this big one right here, that's a black?
Black oak, yeah. And that'll probably be bad for the first 12 feet or so.
Yeah, see that big split?
Yeah, split.
Way over across the valley, that big one. Is that a white oak way over there?
Yeah.
Like that. What's the tree like even worth?
What's it worth?
What's it worth? I mean, if you used to cut that tree down and take it to the sawmill, or
I'm looking at it to see if it would... That's a possible veneer tree. That makes a huge difference. Yeah, if that opens up nice, that would probably veneer almost clear up to where your stand is there. You see a knot right there.
mm-hmm.
Wonder why they didn't cut this one when they were in here.
Because your stand was in it?
Yeah, I wasn't here then. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah. Yeah, now you got a knot up there, just where your strap's going around, but that's a nice tree.
So once you have a knot, that's the end of the veneer.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they
When they
don't.
take the veneer off, they're just taking.
They're peeling it basically, right?
They'll probably slice that more than peel it.
Okay.
All right.
A lot of your peeler logs, like poplar and stuff, they'll peel them and use them as interior core on plywood.
Okay.
Most. It's been a while since I've been through a veneer plant, but yeah, they'll cook that, loosen all the material inside holding the tree together, basically steam that, you know, it gets all nice and soft. They'll put it on they'll split it right down the middle, sometimes quarter them, and then they'll put them on a knife and they'll just cut layers.
Why did
they had knives over in Germany, I know, back this when I was in college. They said they were getting over 100 slices per inch.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All you need is that little thin layer on top of your furniture, you know.
That's incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
So getting back to this tree, what's it worth?
Well, like I said,
I mean, just a guess.
If you,
Because I have no idea.
yeah.
And the thing about these trees, everything you do on the stump's much different than, you know, kiln dried lumber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
You
lot
never
of
know
work
till you cut it.
between.
Well, like I said, right now white oak is maybe one of the more sought after trees.
Yeah.
If you want to say that way, you know, right now. And the veneer, you know, that tree could go anywhere from a few $100 to a couple $1,000, depending on
Right.
if that log veneers. You know, you're talking a lot more money.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
You know, whenever I was buying timber, if I came in, I would have given that probably 12 feet of veneer. And then you factor that into your price that you're paying for it. You know, you figure all your veneer. If you have cherry veneer, red oak veneer, white oak veneer, they all get different prices, of course. You factor that into your price, and you just hope it cuts out at the end. You know?
Yeah.
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 You say when you talk about logs, you look at 16-foot lengths?
A log in forestry terms is 16 foot.
Okay.
Now you're going to have, you know, it's basically going to start maybe a foot above the ground because you're going to leave a little bit of stump, and then you're going to add 6 to 8 inches of trim on each log. But that's, I mean, when you're standing back just looking at that, you go, okay, that's 2 logs, 2.5 logs,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And you put it into your computer and it kicks out a.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depends what. There's 3 different log scales too that people use around here. The loggers like to use Doyle, especially on smaller timber. It tends to underestimate board footage.
Yeah, I've found. I just
Scribner scale is what a lot of foresters use. International, not many people use it at all.
I got it.
International quarterage.
I got a ton to learn. I mean, I've been sawing with that Woodmizer for just a couple years, but I've found scaling with the Doyle and using that bandsaw blade, I get way more out of a log than what you can on the Doyle scale.
And if you took a 16-foot log, say you had a nice straight cherry log, you're going to scale inside the bark typically on the small end.
Mm-hmm.
And then look that up in your tables, you know, to get the footage. If you come back and cut that log in half, you're probably going to gain an inch, maybe even 2 inches at the 8 foot. And if you scaled them separately, sometimes depending on the log, you can almost double your scale.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What's this one? About 28 inches, 24 inches?
Say maybe 26. I can reach right around it. Let's see here. Measure them at 4.5 feet above the ground.
4.5 feet, okay.
On the uphill side. You were closer, 27.8, 28 inch tree.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're on a steep hillside, you always want to be on the uphill side of a tree.
4.5 feet up.
Measuring it, that's diameter breast height.
Okay.
4.5 feet above ground.
That's good information. Well, good deal. Let's take a ride down towards the pond there, and that'll about end our little tour here.
Okay.
So this is that white oak that I had Pete come drop for me just the other day. This one had like a whole bunch of hard lean to it. It had been dead for a while, had a big limb on the backside hanging over. There is some rot in the bottom, but I think I can get a couple decent logs out of that. I hope so. I mean, I can cut on my mill really any length, 5-6 footers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But look at that top down there where it hit. It just exploded. Now, what's that tree right behind you? I don't know what these ones are.
Cucumber magnolia.
A cucumber magnolia. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's why I had no idea what that tree was.
It actually gets sold for poplar. If they saw it at the mill, it's related to poplar.
Okay. So it's about as hard as poplar then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real similar. They're in the magnolia family, so.
Right.
Yeah, you don't actually find all that many of them because the critters, as soon as they drop the fruits, the critters tend to eat them.
Okay.
You know, so if they're scattered here and there, you'll find 1 or 2.
Cucumber magnolia.
What kind of fruit do they drop?
It's see if I can find a pod here. They come in a cluster.
Huh. I never even heard of that type of
Well,
tree.
a friend of mine over in Ohio, he said he was out with a forester, and he said, "Oh, it's a cucumber tree." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it's a cucumber tree. So, but I never knew they were cucumber magnolia. So they actually get a flower on them then?
That must have come out of your oak.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. A little beehive.
What kind of scat is that, Cliff, on the ground?
Would that be raccoon?
Probably. That would be it.
Yeah, I never knew what these were. I don't see many of them, but I had no idea.
No, like I say, you probably won't see all that many of them. By the time the seeds drop, the critters get them. And
What's it similar to?
yellow poplar.
Yeah.
I saw the white oaks up on top of the hill. That's an old tree, and they take on different characteristics.
That's what the guy that dropped this for me, Pete, that's what we were talking about that too, how this is a white oak, but it looks completely different than those ones that are, 12, 14 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
It's like us.
Yeah. They look a lot different now than when I was.
Years change us.
Years do change us.
Yep.
Yeah, I see another white oak over there across the creek, but it's
That's true.
hard to tell from here.
That's a red right there, isn't it? And that's got some weird bark on it. It almost looks like a white oak.
I hate to sound stupid, but some of these almost look like scarlets or hybrids, scarlet and reds.
But like this one right here looks like a nice red to me.
That's right.
Okay.
I didn't even realize that they hybrided out.
According to a college professor I had, they do.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
Starting the beginning again.
Oh, yeah.
So we were just talking. So this section of woods down here was what you would call mature forest.
For the most part, yeah, it's mature.
But it's really...
It's past mature.
Yeah, past mature. There's a lot on the ground that died of old age, and like this white oak's dead probably of old age. But it really comes down to what you want to do with your woods, right?
Yeah. Why do you own the woods?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like walking through it, watching the leaves fall? Do you like hunting? Do you, did you go out and build forts in it when you was a kid and you just don't want to see anything done with it? That's up to you.
Right.
You own it. You
right. Yeah, that's the big
don't have to
thing.
log it.
Because everybody has different needs and different wants, or you may just have an investment property or something. But really, the best thing you could do with this from a forestry standpoint would be to clear cut this. Yeah,
except that it really doesn't have anything on the ground, and that's because of the deer. There's no what they call advanced regeneration. There's different things you could do. Maybe a 2-stage shelter wood, something like that, where you leave enough good trees to hopefully get some stuff going on the ground.
Yeah.
But it's mature. It's almost over mature, and it doesn't leave you that many options.
Yeah. I'm starting to understand why the loggers and the foresters aren't big fans of the deer. They do definitely work stuff over, huh?
Oh yeah.
Any little thing trying to.
There was a guy that worked for Penn State in their extension. He used to call them Eastern Mountain maggots.
Right. Eastern
That's
Mountain.
his name for the deer,
Yeah.
Because they're very, very detrimental. They eat 5 to 8 pounds of food a day generally to maintain themselves, and that's a lot of browse. And
Yeah.
I mean, they eat all kinds of stuff, but in the wintertime, there's not much other than browse to eat.
We gotta get better at hunting, Cliff.
Yeah. And we're trying to get the deer, and he's trying to get rid of the deer.
Yeah.
And you said about a 2-stage cut. Is that? I hear select
It's just
cut.
select cut.
What's the difference?
More often a select cut is I'm going to come in and take all the good stuff and leave you the junk.
Okay, all right. I just hear that term quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-all. It's often a diameter limit cut. They'll come in and say, I'll cut everything 16 inches over, 14 inches over. It's like planting a garden. Come in and say, hey, I only want to do a select harvest in your garden. And you come in and take all the good stuff and leave the weeds. Basically is what it amounts to. But
right. So long term, you're not going to end up with much if you do. Yeah. You got to watch that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Most often, you really got to look what's there and do either a thinning, improvement cutting, selection. Cut is different from a select cut.
Yeah.
A select cut is very often the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
So.
And it sounds like a nice term. You know what I mean? Like, select cut.
You take the good wood and, like you say, leave a lot of the bad wood. So.
Yeah, a lot of guys like to do 50-50 kind of deals too. I have a lot of respect for loggers and stuff. You know, guys are out there trying to make a living, but
Right.
you should have a forester come in and take a look at it, or even a service forester. I think they have some COVID restrictions right now, but the state service foresters can come in and give you pointers. You know.
Yeah, just like you did. I learned a ton of stuff today. You know, I really did, and just stuff that you don't think of.
Yeah.
And other guys I've talked to over the years, if they've used a forester before they did the cutting, they were very happy.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't found out later, I should have had a forester come in here.
Yeah.
Because you know, a lot of times you lose stuff.
Sometimes you don't want to pay the 10%.
Yeah.
But you pay for it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. Plus, it manages the property better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you can, like we said, you can discuss what you want. You know what I mean? What you want for your ground.
I mean, ultimately, it's still up to the landowner. You know, I've done some cuts that I certainly didn't recommend them to a landowner. You know, but that's what they wanted, and they got the final say. It's their property.
Yeah.
Not what I would recommend, but
Right.
you know, I always kind of told them, you know, this is what I would do if this was my property. You know, you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
but
And then plus you have all the market fluctuations, and different outfits are after certain trees, and you know, there's just a lot at play there. You know what I mean? A lot of different things at play. Yeah. Down there by the pond there's some of those, just a few of those hemlocks, but they seem to do pretty well, even with those big towering oaks above them. You know, they must be pretty.
They're more often in nature just found mixed in with white oaks and red oaks and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good deal. Check this out. I just picked this up. This insulation here will go around the perimeter of the building. I'll show you that in another video, but this is 3-inch. This is what the concrete will pour up against. But anyway, the first part of this video was from yesterday. That's when neighbor Cliff and I walked around with the forester Scott, and we learned a lot. We did. It was really interesting. Had a great day. The weather was beautiful. Some of the key takeaways that I got out of that, when you hear people talk about select cutting, you know, it sounds appealing, sounds like, oh, they're just going to select cut, take a few trees or whatever. You may want to really spell things out in your agreement with who's ever logging it, because in some cases you may end up only with some junk trees left. But it all really comes down to what you want to do with your property. Everybody has different needs and wants, and you know, you may just need as much money as you can out of your property, so you're going to take almost every tree out there. Some people want it to look like a park. Other people are all about wildlife habitat. What I'm looking for is kind of a mix. Now, down by my mom's place, some of those big oaks down there, the way Scott said, they're pretty much past their prime. They need cut, but that's not something we want to do. We like the way it looks. Now, other areas, like between my place and neighbor Cliff's, like from the mini cabin over towards his place, that was all fields 40 years ago. And it's not going to really make anything out of there. It's got some soft maple and some cherry. Most of them are kind of crooked. You know, there's somewhere there that you could maybe clear cut some of it, maybe an acre or two, and it'll all grow up real brushy and small trees, real good habitat for the wildlife. So he gave us a lot to think about and a lot to consider. Also brought me up to speed on all the different types of oaks. You know, we've got red oak and white oak, and I know what like a black oak and a pin oak is. But then he's getting into the scarlets, and he gave me different ways to identify those trees a little bit better. I actually confused some hickory. What I thought was elm was actually hickory. I know what shagbark hickory looks like, but like he was saying, there's 4 different types of hickory. I did not know that. But yeah, it was a really good day, and it's my opinion that if you have a wooded property, it would be worth paying a guy like Scott to come out and go for a hike with you and kind of explain what you have, and then you can tell him what your goal is for your property. And I think it'd be money well spent to hire a forester. I do. I was never too sure about that before, but like I said, it was a great day. I learned a lot, and it was all good. But anyway, I think that's about it for today's video. Like I always say, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like button, click subscribe, and share them with your friends. Thanks.